Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So today, I'm really excited to dive into this video today. Lots of talk about increasing speed, Matty boy. Lots of people chasing the maximum speed and increase through super speed, whether it's through stack system, all these different training aids that are out there right now. But we're going to dive into a slightly different way of looking at this distance sort of gain that people are trying to make. And it's through launch conditions.
Because that's the thing, I think ultimately the goal of the speed is to hit it further. But you can also have a bunch of speed and produce kind of the wrong launch conditions. You can maybe hit it in the wrong part of the head, you can launch it too low, all these things. You end up swinging 10 miles an hour faster, but maybe you only hit it a few yards further and you get left going, oh, what am I doing wrong here?
The holy grail for a lot of people until they get there, and obviously you're not going to reset your goals, but 300 yards appears to be the distance that everyone feels pretty proud of themselves once they hit a 300-yard drive.
Definitely, no doubt about it.
We see on the launch monitors all the time, more people are achieving that, but we want to break down today what it takes to hit a 300-yard drive. So you may find yourself at the speed required to hit a 300-yard drive. You may just not have the right ingredients in the other parts of it, which are launch angle, spin rate, strike point, all those types of things. At what speed does it become achievable?
Right.
And then sort of either side of that, certainly a little bit slower, how can you get it with a little bit less effort? What's the least amount of effort you can put in and still hit it that distance?
That's the one that I think is really appealing, because someone might be doing speed training or just think, listen, I've got limitations with my body, or I have worked on my speed. I can't get past who knows what the number is. But I really feel like I could hit it a bit further. I play with a guy I know, he kind of hits it further than me, but I know we swing almost the same kind of club head speed, and that's the input of it. And it's just like, I think a lot of people don't realize there's ways you can alter your ball flight to get 10 yards out of it for sure. An
extra 10 makes a big difference. And we are talking about 300 yards total.
Yes.
So realistically, I think in most courses and course conditions, we're talking about a carry of about 280.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, Matty boy, start us off. Obviously, 300 yards total distance is something you're not really familiar with. You've sailed way past that, but you do deliver the club well to maximize launch conditions. So we're just going to ask you to dial your speed back a little bit today.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Driver we've built specifically for this job.
Little Ventus red action.
Yep, 6S. We think that we can get this today where we can get people who are in stiff, not necessarily, you don't have to be an X-Flex guy or gal. You can be in that 105 mile an hour territory and still be able to achieve this.
That'll be an interesting one. It was close.
Very, very good right out of the gates. So, Matty boy, 110 club, 155 ball. Slightly heely, slightly low in the head, delivering 19.8 degrees aloft, and you've hit it really, really good. So, even in the soft ground conditions, when you get your launch up and your spin down, you can still get, 20 yards approximately of
fair,
run.
Right?
Let's look to get that strike a little higher up the head. Keep everything else the same and get that strike a little higher up the head. I think the formula is pretty close.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
And for people that might use different devices to measure their club head speed or a TrackMan device, just roughly 110 on a Foresight machine, would you expect 106 about that on TrackMan?
106, 107, something about that. Yep. About just over 3 miles an hour difference in the way it reads club head speed. That could be the one. That's a perfect example there. 153. Now, 16 launch and 1600 spin are, pretty rare examples. We've had to hit the ball slightly high in the head to achieve that. You're hitting the ball around the middle, but when you get it a little bit higher, it does mean that you can drop your speed a little bit because you get the gear effect, the spin rate comes down, the launch angle goes up, and it propels the ball with less, at that height with less speed. So height matters. If you're struggling to carry the ball the right distance, you're going to want to increase the height but do it in the right way.
Because a lot of players will say, well, I hit my driver super high, and that's because they're probably hitting a bit down on the driver, or they may be hitting the low part of the head, and the ball's climbing up with spin versus the opposite.
Definitely. So as we stray down in the head, very interesting to see the difference that makes. 257 versus 282,
Crazy.
25 yards in carry.
Wow.
For the same ball speed. Almost 30 yards, 28 yards in total. So the ball kind of stalls in flight. It's a bit softer, doesn't roll out nearly as much. So lots of people out there will resonate with this, saying, yeah, I hit it about 270 on a nice one.
Yeah.
But there's 30 more in there for you. And I think a lot of people still hold it against manufacturers. Well, rightly so at times. Some marketing claims are a bit bogus, but it's all about gaining. That 30 yards is all about gaining the right launch conditions, achieving the right launch conditions. It's not about, the change of driver is automatically going to give it to you, like a flip of a switch.
Because you've seen, even with some of the drives we've gone through that are 4 or 5 miles an hour faster than this, you can get less distance if your launch conditions are no good. So it's really the fitting aspect of it, and knowing you need to be hitting a bit up on the driver, strike the higher part of the head, launch it high, spin it low. Those are the ways to actually gain that yardage.
Exactly. So, 30, what do we say there? 28 yards between basically two drives at the exact same speed. Actually, this one's marginally higher.
That's right. You got, if anything, a bit quicker,
higher.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And this isn't even a particularly high spin driver. We're using TSI 3.
Yeah.
With that strike on call it a G4 25 max, something like that. That spins up probably around 35, 3700, something about there. You probably hit it 265.
Very true.
Same speed.
You may not even have a driver in your bag that's capable, I guess, of giving you these launch conditions. Like, that's something people have to consider. You might be able to adjust it, maybe loft it down and work on your angle of attack. But if you have a driver that is high spin, it's kind of tough to get those launch conditions. So
guys, I think we're starting to show you what's possible. And this can be, you might be 90 miles an hour or you might be 110 miles an hour, but knowing that you need all these ingredients, higher launch, lower spin, strike slightly above the equator if possible, try and keep it pretty centered, don't stray too much heel and toe. That's the recipe. Somewhere around 105 to 110 club head speed. If someone's doing speed training, aim for that range. And then if you're still not getting a 300-yard drive, you need to look at the launch conditions. We're put the ground conditions on soft today. True. If your ground conditions are a little bit firmer, you might achieve it with less. That's a good point. You might achieve it at 151, 150, something round about that if you get the 16. But it is going to take some favourable conditions with the lower speed ranges. Definitely. Okay guys, hopefully that helps. Hopefully this is speaking to some of you out there that feel like you're still underachieving, you've purchased a new driver but it's still not really getting you any further out there. You've got to do your part. Delivery is a big part of this. Angle of attack, strike control, dynamic loft. Control those three variables and you've got a fighting chance. We would obviously recommend getting fit, having the understanding of the strike point and everything with a GC quad would really help you isolate the variables. Then picking the right components, the right head, the right shaft, the right flex, right weight, all those sorts of things. So there's lots of things that go into making this possible for you to achieve 300 yards if you haven't already done it. So hopefully this gives some of you some hope. And don't send it to your buddies if this helps you and you hit it 300 and they start wondering how you picked up 20 yards this weekend. Where did it come from? This is how, yeah. Good stuff. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. More tips to come again. We'll see you again soon.